All right. Today, we're talking about treatments that you are refusing for your child with autism that could change everything. So, there are a number of parents, and they have a child with autism, or they have children with autism, okay? And they're searching for answers like every other parent. And they're going to the schools, and they're going to the doctors, and they're going to the therapists. And these are professionals who are telling parents the same things. You can try these medications, you can try these therapies, and let's hope for the best. Okay? And so for some parents, it's like, oh, okay, well, this may or may not be working for my son or daughter. Okay. Or they might say, it worked for a while and it's not working so much. What do I do? And so then the doctor's like, well, let's just increase the medicine. Or if that medicine was working, let's try another medicine. Maybe this will work. Maybe it won't. Or they'll say, well, this behavioral therapist has been working, but maybe you've outgrown this one. Maybe you should try another. Maybe this will work. Maybe it won't. They are practicing medicine. They're practicing. Maybe it'll work. Maybe it won't. And what I'm realizing in a lot of these groups that I'm in is that many of the parents are worn out and they're tired and they're turning to each other to look for answers. What do I do? I told you this before. Parents are looking for answers. But there may be a treatment that you refused that changed everything. So let's talk about the hidden costs to saying no to any updated autism treatment. Okay? And I say that cautiously because there are new quote unquote therapies and treatments out here all the time. And to me, they're really bogus. There's a new medication that can solve the problem of autism, the problems of autism. We have a cure. What? Let's talk about it. Okay? Stalled progress in development. Refusing to try new approaches may prevent the child from making gains in speech, behavior, or social interaction, leading to delays that could have been avoided. And whenever I'm talking about, let's be clear, when I'm talking about treatment refused, I'm talking specifically about some of the things I talked about in previous videos, specifically from last week. Whenever I was talking about cutting out toxins and sensory understanding and stuff like that. These are things that you haven't heard about, but it's literally like not medicine and not behavioral therapy. And so these are treatments that I'm talking about. When you eliminate, you consider the lights and the sounds and stuff like that according to their sensory needs. That's what I'm talking about. When you hear about people talking about their nutritional needs and changing their diet, that's what I'm talking about. And so when you're refusing these things and be like, no, 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 that's not what the doctor said. Of course that's not what the doctor said. The doctors are trying to push meds. The doctors are referring you to therapists because they get a percentage every time you pay a copay or every time your insurance provider makes a payment. That's the way the medicine world works. Okay? So that's what I'm talking about. But whenever you delay in making these decisions regarding your child's treatment, these are the consequences. So that's what I'm talking about. Stalled progression, stalled development, stalled progress in development. So whenever you refuse this, then your child could be progressing in a good way in their development, but that's stalled, okay? And your child could be making these gains in different areas, even in their brain development, but they're not because you didn't make the right choices in their treatment, okay? If you're making the wrong choices in their treatment and they're not progressing, that's a problem for your child. Okay? The next one is missed opportunity. The missed window. You missed the window of opportunity. So this isn't just for young children. This could be for the older children as well. The sooner the better. Avoiding new therapies or tools during crucial developmental stages can mean missing a child's most receptive learning period. That's not just when they're small, because the brain is developing all the way through age 25. So if they're 12, if they're 15, you want them progressing, but you want to give them the tools that they need in order to progress to the next level, right? Next, increased parental burnout. The longer it takes for them to make progress, the more it's going to stress you out. And the more it stresses you out, that's not going to be good for your kid. Okay? Sticking with outdated or ineffective methods often leads to more frustration, emotional exhaustion, especially when behavioral issues persist and escalate. It's not going to help the child if you're not getting sleep. If you don't have the patience, it doesn't help anybody. Next, worsening of challenging behaviors. Again, if the treatment's not helping them and their behaviors are getting worse, you know what I mean? If underlying sensory, emotional, or neurological needs aren't addressed with fresh strategies, behaviors may worsen, not improve. And then you're looking at your child like, they're struggling so much. Do you think they're happy to be struggling? They need a new therapy. Okay? What else? Isolation for the child. A lack of adaptive tools can make it harder for the child to engage socially, attend school successfully, or build friendships. Isn't that what you want for them? You want them to build friendships. You want them to interact socially. You want them to do well in school. And when I say do well in school, I'm not just talking about academics. You want them to want to go to school and to thrive and interact with the before I started this live, I literally, just before I started, I hit live on this button. I read a story in one of the groups that said that the child got kicked out of school for the day because she scratched her teacher. She was scratching her. And the parent felt defeated. She's like, I'm so upset. Like, they couldn't calm her down at school. So they were like, come get your kid. I don't know if it was a special needs school. I don't know if it was a partial hospitalization program. It probably wasn't. And maybe you watched my other videos. Maybe you heard me tell the story of how my son went to a private school whenever he was in grade school. It was considered a partial hospitalization program because it wasn't inpatient. It was partial hospitalization because they had all the doctors and all the specialists there while he was there during the school day. So they had professionals on site to give meds and to be able to do all the things. Well, if your child goes to a regular school that has special ed classes, or they attend a regular general academic program with a regular teacher, and they accommodate your child's special needs, they don't have structures and professionals in place to accommodate, the whole, a tantrum from your child's special need. Your child's special needs tantrum, and they can't calm her down. The things that usually work to calm her down. So whenever the teacher's being attacked by your child's tantrum and they can't calm her down, they're like, come get her. You want your child to be able to do well in school, attend school, and be able to adapt to that environment. See? Next, strained family dynamics. Siblings and partners may experience added stress or resentment if no new efforts are being made to improve the home environment. Are you stressed out at home? Better question. Is your spouse or your child's siblings stressed out because of your child with autism? Is that part of your frustration that you can't create a more calm or peaceful dynamic in the house? You might need some other options. Okay? Next, resistance can lead to playing the blame game. What do I mean? Continuing with the same approaches allows the parents to place successes and failures solely on that approach. So what I mean by that is, say your child is in ABA therapy, the applied behavioral analysis therapy, and say the your child is doing well. So when people are asking you about your child and saying, "Oh, she seems to be doing well," you're like, "Oh yeah, she has a great therapist. The ABA therapy is doing well." So you're blaming them for how well she's doing. It's them. That's why she's doing well. Okay. But after a while, she starts digressing. She's acting out. She's tantruming. You increase her hours every week. You talk to the therapist more. You do all these things, and no matter what you do, the therapy's not working. Then you say, "I don't know what happened, but the therapist is the reason why." You're playing the blame game. You're continuing the same approach, and it allows you to place the successes and the failures solely on that approach. But if you try to make different decisions, you risk being blamed for any failures. So if you change, you say, "You know what, ABA therapy doesn't work, let's try something else." If you try something else and she gets even worse, then it's your fault. So you like keeping her in ABA therapy, so at least even if it's not working, you can blame them and not yourself. Yeah. Yeah, I have a psychology background. I know all about that. You already blame yourself for your child having autism. You don't want to be blamed anymore. So you don't want to make any additional decisions for your child because you already feel guilty and you don't want a heavier burden. When really, this isn't about you. This is about what your child needs. If that's not working, if one therapy isn't working, you need to keep trying therapies until they do. Do your research. Do what makes sense for your child. Okay? All right. Next, dependency on crisis intervention. This is good. Without trying proactive and preventative methods, families often end up relying on emergency services, schools, or state programs only when things reach a breaking point. So what happens is everything's cool. We are operating to just keep my child calm. We're walking on eggshells. Everybody's on their tippy. Don't set him off. We don't want to set him off. We want to avoid a tantrum. Okay. But sometimes tantrums happen. And so there we go. It happens. He's in an uproar. He's screaming. He's throwing stuff. He's fighting. He's punching. He's breaking stuff. So now we got to call emergency services. And we are, we're in crisis mode. And so some families go from crisis mode to crisis mode. As soon as the crisis is over, we're like, whew, we survived that one. So it wasn't so bad. We only needed a couple stitches. There are parents that have autistic children. They have black eyes. They have bruises. They have cuts. Okay? Because they live from crisis to crisis. They can tell you stories about how they had to get this window fixed and he broke this, and and he pushed his mom down the steps, and because the older they get, the bigger the tantrums get. The more they can ruin. There's nothing we can do. We can't control him. We live from crisis to crisis. And so they are reactive whenever it comes to this child and their tantrums. And so they're just trying to do damage control every time. Instead of being proactive and putting preventive measures in place. That's no way to live. Keep the matches away from him. He'll set stuff on fire. He flooded the house one time. We gotta call the police again. You don't want that. Next, limited future independence for the child. Skills like communication, regulation, and life independence may be underdeveloped, reducing the child's ability to thrive in adulthood. I talked about this a number of times. Every parent being afraid of what's going to happen to their child after they get to the point where they can't care for their child. Well, but if the treatment that they have now is not preparing them for adulthood, then you need to change the treatment. It sounds obvious to me, but for parents who don't know any better, or for parents who don't have any more options, they're like, well, I mean, they just told, I'm just doing what they told me. They told me to put them in school and put them in ABA therapy. I don't know. School and ABA therapy doesn't prepare your child for independence. It doesn't. It's not designed to prepare your. That doesn't mean they won't give them some life skills. That doesn't mean they won't give them some home skills. As the parent, you are responsible for putting your child in a place of learning the skills for independence throughout adulthood. The school doesn't do that. Remember what I talked about in another video. The school's job, school in general, for all children, their job is to prepare children for college. Schools are not designed for our children with autism. They're not. But they are forced to accommodate them. Yeah. You want to be able to put your child in a position for independence into adulthood. Okay? And last, missed hope and breakthroughs. Some treatments or methods have led to real breakthroughs. Refusing to try them may mean missing that one that could change everything. Okay? I know for a fact that my methods can change everything because it worked for my son. My son, I'll tell you the honest to goodness truth. My son is probably more like your child than you think, or at least he was. He was not as high functioning, not even a little bit, when he was younger. He couldn't have a conversation. He couldn't speak in complete sentences. He would stare at the lights, rock back and forth, and flap his hands. He couldn't button buttons. He couldn't get himself dressed and zip up a zipper. He couldn't. You could ask him a question and he couldn't understand what you were talking about. He would look out of the side of his face like this. And he would shake a hanger or a pencil like this. And he would look at it from the side of his. And he would make squealing noises all day. And now he's a third-year college student at Georgia State University. He already completed a 2-year program, and he's going to complete 4 years next year. And I don't take him to class. He catches buses by himself, cleans his own bathroom, does his own laundry. Okay? So I already know that my methods lead to real breakthroughs. Okay? So if you want more information on what I can do to help you with your child, to help with continued development, to help with reducing parental burnout, to help with better family dynamics, and to help with future independence, go to my website, TerrayWard.com. I'm going to drop it in the chat so that you can do your own research, so that you can read my story and see what I may have to help you and your child with autism. Okay? I hope this helps. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.